So you got to understand that the majority of the world, the way they view Christianity, the way Christians conduct themselves is very different, and that we are the weird ones. And in fact, we're the ones that are laughed at. We go to India, and I start talking to people. I did this big, conference like this, about this size, a little bigger, but it was all for people who were persecuted. It was the persecuted church in Orissa, and just the lovely, beautiful brothers and sisters in Christ, and just to sit down and talk to them, thousands of them, and go, man, tell me, what happened, and this lady, I'm talking to, she's there with her newborn baby. She's feeding her, which was weird, but she just starts telling me, her story, and she tells me about how, I became a believer, and she says, literally, everyone in my village came knocking on my door one day, and I'm pregnant, and they come with a lizard with its head cut off, because you have to drink the blood of a lizard to convert back to Hinduism. And they said, you need to drink this. You come back to us. And she said she just grabbed her Bible and ran. She just talked about that horrifying day when everyone that was familiar to her came against her for following Jesus, and just ran into the jungle, husband running after her, and she's going, I will not deny Jesus Christ. And her story about, she just her and her husband, first child in the jungle by themselves, looking for food to eat, trying to survive, and talking about giving birth. You have no idea. You've never had a child before. Your wife's there. You're like, what in the world do? We don't even have food for ourselves. And how they kind of just, they just figured it out. They just kind of survive out there. Another lady, same thing. Next guy, scars all over his body. Talking about, when I became a believer, we just know. We just know it's going to end sooner or later. The persecution's going to come. And he says, so, a few months into my relationship with God, when I'm surrounded by guys with bats and just pieces of wood, and I just looked at God and go, okay, here I come. He goes, I knew that day would come. And they beat me and everything else, but somehow I lived through it. I survived it. And he's showing me scars on his head, his legs, and everything else, talking about how some of his friends were not as fortunate and they just died. And so I'm just listening to these guys. And so then I'm asking the guy that's taking me around, and I go, tell me your story. And he was a pastor now. He goes, well, I became a Christian when I was 11. Because I was 11 years old, and I told my dad, I go, Dad, I became a Christian. My dad looked at me and says, don't you ever call me Dad again. He said he took all my belongings. He goes, I still remember, because it was raining. He took everything of mine and threw it out of the house, threw it in the mud, and says, get out of here. I don't ever want to see you again. You are not my son. And so he goes, I just remember 11 years old, I'm just crying, just walking around India. And I don't know if you've been around there. It's not a place where you just can find shelter, whatever. And he's just, man, can you imagine 11? Some of you guys have 11-year-olds. You imagine they're just on their own and just wandering around trying to find anything to eat for the rest of his life. No family to go to, nothing. Big smile on his face, one of the happiest guys I've ever met. And just talking about, and then the Lord provided here, and then I would find food here, and this, and years later, and he's probably like in his 30s, and he says, hey, but the miracle is, just recently, my father became a Christian, and we reunited, and, and he's just gone, and I'm just like, hearing these stories, and I'm going, but I'm asking him, I go, look, everyone I'm meeting out here seems so intense. I go, aren't there any groups that are casual? Seriously, I go, there has to be. And he looked at me and he goes, not really. He says, because it doesn't make sense here. Why would you lose everything for something you don't really believe? If you just casually believe it, you're going to lose it all. You're going to be persecuted. So either there's not really, doesn't make sense to be casual. I go, I had never thought that. They rescue these kids, and I'm, in this little hut type of thing at night and with my kids. And I think in this one particular thing, there's like 36 kids, and some of the leaders and some of us, and we're sitting around just worshiping. And the guy playing guitar, I would nudge Lisa. I go, I'm better than him. It's just voice is everything. It's just it's sad. And I can't sing either. I was better than this guy. I was very proud of myself. But nothing. But no one cared. It's not about voices. It's not whatever. You see this room of these kids that have been rescued physically and spiritually. And you see these little kids, just their eyes closed and just screaming out to God. And you can't. I'd be so shocked if you could sit in that room and not cry. Because you just think, oh God, this has got to be so beautiful to you. This is the most beautiful chorus, of these kids that have been rescued physically, spiritually. They owe everything to you, and they sing like it. They pray like it. They live like it. And the way they serve each other and get along, and it's just, there's this beautiful picture of redemption. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. That's the way, if we really believe this, that's the way we should be singing. It doesn't matter who's up there. It doesn't matter what the music is. It doesn't matter what song it is. That's the way we ought to sing, the look in their eyes. And then when I was in China, I'd always heard about the underground church in China, and I had an opportunity to teach at an underground missionary training place. And so these are the believers. They were all about 18 to 25. These are the believers that the church looked at and said, man, these guys they're hardcore. We're going to get them to this training area because they want to go into the Middle East. They want to go to places where it's going to be even more dangerous, and they're just ready to give their lives. And you walk, just my oldest daughter Rachel and I walked in, and the way they were praying was just different. It was so intense, crying out to God, the way they would sing. You just felt that energy in that room. But then they started sharing, and they had, I came there to teach, and I was like, you guys, I feel really dumb up here, I want to hear your life. I go, tell me about the persecution. And because I want to hear from you. I came here to learn. I didn't come here to teach. I've made that mistake in the past thinking, I'm going to go there to Africa and I'm going to, teach them. Then you realize, oh my gosh, I need to just sit and listen to your stories, your life, because you have a faith I don't get. And so I told them that's what I want to hear about. And they gave me this weird look, like, what are you talking about? I go, persecution. Don't you guys get persecuted? And they go, well, of course, but everyone does. I go, no, not everyone does. And it was a strange interaction because they go, well, explain what you mean. And I said, when people persecute you for sharing your faith, and they just started rattling off scripture. They go, but that's what Jesus said would happen. Why do you even want to hear about that? It was so commonplace. But then I said, just tell me some stories of what the last time. Tell me the last time, And so this girl gets up and she goes, okay, and she explained real broken English, but she talked about just the funnest group of people. You would have loved them. They're full of joy, they're laughing, and this girl was talking about them having a meeting, and then, the government officials, someone warned them, hey, they're coming. And she just talked about, she goes, first time in my life, she goes, I thank God I'm so skinny. She talked about how it was so funny. Everyone's laughing. She talked about how she fit in between these two boards and how she was trying not to breathe and then praying because her backpack was downstairs. Oh, Lord, please don't let them see my backpack. And, and some of her friends got taken away. And, but meanwhile, they're just laughing and, yeah, oh, right on, you're skinny. Just on and on. Another guy gets gets up and he just talks about how, oh yeah, these 3 officials came and we thought, okay, there's only 3 of them. There's 13 of us. Let's just run. Everyone run in a different direction, and everyone in the room's like, yeah, and they're just all start running. He goes, then he started firing. They start firing their guns. And he goes, but we were taught, never stop running. So we just kept running and going, oh, I hope they're bluffing, and just shooting in the air. And sure enough, they said, we're shot in the air, but we're going to shoot you next. Stop. He just said, we just ran and ran because that's the way we were trained. And everyone's in there, this is life to us. And I'm sitting there going, wow, really? Man, that's cool, And they're just like, what's up with you? I go, you got to understand. I go, where I come from, it's not like that. And I said, where I come from, we have these buildings called churches. And we attend them. And we have so many that if you find music that you like better at a different one, you just switch. And that's exactly what they did. They're laughing hysterically, like, shut up. I go, no. I go, seriously, if there's better child care there, they have better schools for their kids or the service is short or whatever else. We switch, we jump from place to place. And these guys are just looking at it. And that was the weirdest part, was how hard they were laughing. And because to them, they just go, that doesn't make sense. They said, how do you read this book and come up with that? And I go, I know, but it's just what we do there. And it was just one of those moments where you walk away going, wow, it really is ridiculous. Some of what we do, like, how did we get that from here? And so for me, it was like, I needed to see that. I need to see that when you just put India and China together, that's 40% of the world's population. Okay, we're not talking about a little weird country here. That's 40%. The U.S. is about 4% of the world's population. So you got to understand that the majority of the world, the way they view Christianity, the way Christians conduct themselves is very different, and that we are the weird ones. And in fact, we're the ones that are laughed at. And in fact, we're the ones that are laughed at. And in fact, we're the ones that are laughed at.